good afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it is for you, to today's stream, where I want to build a little, well, I won't build a web crawler, I'll use a web crawler, but I'll tweak it a little bit, and the idea is just to have some fun with it and build some smart automations, bring in some AI, because that is something I've been playing around with quite a bit over the last weeks, to be honest. And I find it quite exciting what you can do totally without using, or almost without using third-party services and without paying anything. So that's what we'll do today. And specifically, I want to use this crawl4ai package. Now, just to make sure we're all on the same page, when it comes to crawling websites, or when it comes to extracting content from websites, which is not exactly the same technically. When it comes to that, it's not straightforward. It's not super easy to do, as I'll show you in a second. But there are packages, there are libraries like crawl4ai, which make it easier. And there are plenty of packages you can use. I've tried a lot, and I personally found crawl4ai the best, but we'll get there. So for today, I prepared a little project here. Now, Mr. Arcane Mage, since I see it here, is it safe to web crawl? I have heard it is the easiest way to end up in jail in EU. Well, I don't know if you'll go to jail, but I'll get back to this. Web crawling, web scraping, which is not the same, is a gray area, I guess. I'm not sure how many people went to jail because of it, but there are certain rules you should probably follow. And I'll also dive into that today. But I can't give any official legal advice here. I'll just show you what you can do and what you should probably take into account, how you can probably be a bit safer from a legal perspective, but then it's up to you what you do with that. But yeah, that's the plan for today. I will primarily scrape and crawl my own website today, so therefore I should be safe. So I'm in a new Python project here, set up with UV, which, by the way, in case you don't know, is an amazing Python package and project manager. UV is a tool you can install on all operating systems. It makes managing Python projects so much less of a pain. And yeah, I got a project here, and in this project, there is essentially nothing, right? It's an empty main.py file, essentially. So the goal now is to get started extracting some website content. By the way, the difference between web crawling and web scraping means you load a website programmatically, and you try to extract its content. And you then use that, for example, to train AI models. Like all these AI large language models we're using every day, they have all been trained on millions, billions of gigabytes of data that have been scraped from the internet. And that, by the way, we can absolutely question if that was legal, but it is what it is. So yeah, web scraping is the process of automating the extraction of data. And web crawling is that you automate the process of visiting websites. So for example, you could say, I'll take my website as an example because, hey, it's my website. You could say, hey, I want to extract all the articles here. So what you would do is you want to write a script that visits the articles page, let's say, and on there is a list of all articles. Right now, I don't have any pagination here, so it's a complete list of all articles. But of course, it's not the full articles, it's just the preview. So you could write a script that basically tries to find all these links, which you see as a human as well, and then that script could visit all these sites, and then you would have the article and you could try extracting that. And by the way, please don't do that all to my website. Please read the articles. They're really great. But that is what web crawling would be. You try to automate that process of visiting all the pages that make up an overall website. For example, the Google search engine crawler tries to visit all the websites that are out there in the web, and it tries to find all the sub-pages of every website and understand what that page is about. So that's that. Now, what you could try to do is you could use a package like the requests package in Python to send a regular request. So we could import requests here into this Python script. And then in the main function, we could try to send a GET request to, let's say, my website, right? So I can just grab, let's take this articles page here. We could try to send a request to that. And we would hopefully get back a response. And we could take a look at the text response here, because I know that this GET request to this site will return an HTML document, which is just plain text. So we could print that, or actually I want to store it in a file, which makes it a bit easier to read. So I want to open cursor. Why am I not getting auto suggestions? I don't want to type it all. With open. Can you please give me some suggestions? I'm not used to working without AI. Seriously, yeah, here we go. So I can try opening a response HTML file, which will be created if it doesn't exist, and I can write my response text into that. So now with that, if I run this script here, with uv run main py, it will send this request to my website, extract that text content, and save that into a response HTML file. And if we take a look at this file, it's a bit hard to read, obviously, but if I format that, that indeed is the HTML code of this site. So that worked pretty well. And of course, we could now try to extract the actual meaningful content. And there are two main ways of doing that. We could either try to write some code that walks this HTML tree here, so that goes through all these HTML elements, and we could take a look at the HTML structure, and we would see, oh, okay, we probably, let's see, we want to find an ordered list, and then the list items are the articles, and in there it's like the, what is that? It's the first paragraph inside of the list item that contains the preview text. We could try doing something like this. And of course, in Python, you can use packages like Beautiful Soup for handling that in a more or less easy way. So that's a package that helps you extract content from HTML. That is what you could do. This approach, of course, has a couple of problems. One problem is that I could definitely write a script that is fine-tuned for my website here, right? So for my website, it's optimized. I could do that because I know the structure perfect. Now, whenever I change the structure of my website, that script would fail. If it's just looking for the first paragraph inside of a list item, inside of an ordered list, which is inside of the main section, let's say, if it's just looking for this exact structure, it will fail whenever I change anything about the HTML code. So that's not perfect. And it also wouldn't work for other websites. Because they have a different structure. There also is a way bigger problem, to which I'll get back. And Hussein already pointed it out, that we have a problem with sites that are rendering on the client side, but I'll get back to that. But even without that, we have a problem that the structure, of course, will change. So we might need a smarter approach. And there are various approaches we could try to extract the content in a better way. One approach would be to use a large language model. So of course, I can take all that code here, right? All that HTML code, and I can burn some tokens, go to ChatGPT or write an automated script, and I'll get back to that. And I could say, here's some HTML code. HTML. Please extract all meaningful content from this site. We could do something like this, and again, we could also do that in our code. We could automate this. Now, it will probably take some time because it is quite a lot of code, but it should work normally. Normally, large language models are quite good at that. Yeah, so it's extracting some information, for example, the articles. Yeah, so that is working. That's one way. The disadvantage of this approach, of course, is that you're paying for the tokens that are being used. I mean, here inside of ChatGPT, I have a subscription. It's not costing me extra. But if I would automate this, if I would write some code to programmatically do that, I would pay for all the tokens. Still, this is a valid approach because that works for most sites, because large language models are really good at identifying that content. A better approach in some situations would be to instead write some heuristic, some code that tries to smartly detect the relevant content. For example, going back to the HTML file, we could write some code that looks for HTML elements that contain more than 5 words, let's say. Because all these buttons, all the navigation links, they typically only have 1 or 2 or 3 words. So we could look for elements that have at least 5 words, and that would probably give us the more relevant content. Now, we would have to be a bit more elaborate because we might want to include child elements so that if we have some text that also includes a link, we don't ignore that link text, which is still part of the overall text, but you can make that work. We're not going to do that today, though. I did it in JavaScript in a different project. It's doable. But that would be better because, yes, you can use a cheap model. And that might absolutely be the best solution for your specific project. But if you can get equally good results with just code, without an AI, so without paying anything, that of course might also be worth a thought. And we will see such a solution in action today. I'll just not write it myself. And yes, I have heard about Tavily or whatever it's called, right? So I have heard about them, which is basically search API that also gives you summaries of the sites you're searching. I also heard about Firecrawl. These are all amazing services. You can definitely use them. But we can also do it ourselves. So extracting the relevant content is possible with a large language model or by writing some code that smartly analyzes the code. That would work. It can be done. But we have a problem. This worked for my site because my site here is, in a positive sense, a pretty simple site. It's server-side rendered, it doesn't have any bot detection, it doesn't have anything fancy that would make extracting the content with a boring HTTP request difficult. That's not the case for all sites, though. Let's say we want to extract something from Twitter. And here, by the way, we're entering an area which is dangerous, I would say, because Twitter explicitly does not allow crawling in their terms of use. So you might not want to do that. And I'll just use it as an example here to show you that, I'll use it as an example to show you that it doesn't work with that approach. So let's say I would want to crawl this post here. So I copy the URL of this post and I insert this here and I try to extract the HTML content. If I do that, it seems to work, I don't get an error, but if we take a look at the HTML file I get back, that looks pretty short and simple for this site, right? That is probably not all the HTML code we want. And indeed, I have an error. This browser is no longer supported. Please switch to a supported browser. The reason for that is that Twitter or X and many other sites actively defend against this kind of data extraction, let's say. And or they are client-side rendered. That's also an important factor. So we might have pages where the actual HTML code we fetch does not include the relevant HTML code. So, or the relevant content, because they actually load JavaScript code and they use that client-side JavaScript code to load the actual content. A single page application can't be scraped like this. This won't work for a single page application because the initial HTML code we get doesn't contain the actual content. Now I already see that some of you already shared that we can take a screenshot, and you are right. We can do that. We can bring in a tool like Playwright. Playwright is actually, I think the actual idea is that it's an end-to-end testing tool. So we can use it because actually it's for end-to-end testing, but it does spin up a browser which you can control with code. So that's the great thing about Playwright. Yeah, you need to run Playwright install after installing the package to install these browsers, which it tries to spin up. And yes, we'll run into more problems. User agent detection, I already read it in the chat, will be a problem. But I'm just trying to get there step by step to show you what does work, what does not work, what you can try. And at the end, we'll get back to crawl4ai, which is an amazing package that works around many of the problems we'll face. But it's important to understand which kind of problems you could face and which different approaches you could try using. So Playwright it is. We're installing all these browsers. I can already get started writing some code. And therefore, what I want to do is I want to spin up a Playwright browser and visit a page. So let's go from Playwright. It's been some time since I last used it like this, but that's looking good. We're launching one of these browsers. Headless mode simply means whether you see the browser or not, so to say. So if it runs it in the background or if it opens it as a foreground process. So here headless false means it is as a foreground process. Then we can visit a new page. It suggests x.com as a default. How funny. I'll use this URL though. So which is also x.com, but a specific post, of course. We wait for a timeout, and then it already suggests to take a screenshot. That's the AI-generated code that I got from Cursor. Because that's one thing you can do with Playwright. You can spin up a browser, navigate to a page, and then take a screenshot. And that's something we can try here. So let's now run this. And this will now open up a browser. Now it does that here on my second screen. Here we go. That's the browser. You can see the site is being visited. And I think it now waits for 10 seconds, something like this. Yeah, waiting for timeout. And then it creates a screenshot. Here it is. So that is a way that works. That is a way that works. Now, of course, you can see there is a bunch of stuff on that screenshot which we might not want, these overlays, but the general post is visible. And of course, we could now send this screenshot to some AI, right? So back in ChatGPT, and we could automate this. If I add this screenshot, I could say, please extract the core website content, ignore navigation, overlays, etc. And that should work because AIs are quite good at that. And yeah, indeed, I can see that post. Now, again, this is something which isn't necessarily allowed, to put it like this, to be very clear about that. It's something that works here, but it's not necessarily allowed. In addition, it might not work on all sites. On X, it worked here. But if you try other sites, if you try, for example, if you try google.com and you try searching for something like OpenAI, I think that won't work. It didn't work the last time I tried doing that. Because actually here I can already see there is a big overlay in the way. But even if that overlay would be gone, I think Google is actually quite good at detecting bots or tools like Playwright and at not showing you anything. So in this case, the problem is, of course, that I have this overlay, but even without that, I think it doesn't work. But we can test this because, of course, we can do more with Playwright than just take screenshots. We can also do stuff on the site that is being loaded. We can try to execute code to remove elements. So let's see if Cursor can do that for me. Please add some code that uses Playwright to execute some JavaScript on the loaded page to remove or to click any button that says accept or agree or confirm. It's enough if it contains that text. Casing shouldn't matter. Let's see if Cursor can do that for me. So Google is scraping the world, yet they don't want to be scraped. Yeah, that is correct. Funnily enough, by the way, there is, how is it called? SERP API, which is another service you can use to search programmatically. And my understanding is that they actually are scraping Google. And they have this entire document, this entire explanation why that is legal. Somewhere. It's not too important, but they have a long article where they explain why that is legal. So yeah, I'll leave that to the lawyers to decide whether scraping is legal or not. So let's see, got some code by Cursor here. Let's just accept it. Some vibe coding vibes. So what it tries to do here is it tries to find a button that has the text accept, agree, or confirm inside of it. And then it clicks that. And that should close that overlay. Let's see if that works. Yeah, it did work. It did work. It was just so quick that I couldn't drag that onto the screen. But now you see that worked. But it's just entered OpenAI here. Now, if we wanted to see the results of that, we would need to visit a different page. We would need to visit this page here, /search. So let's try this too. If that works, that would be really funny because it never worked for me. But let's try visiting this Google page here with search OpenAI to automate search. Yeah, and now it did not work. Now I got this here on the screen, right? So that is Google detecting that I'm a robot. Now there are ways around that. There is a package called Playwright Stealth, this one here, which you can install and then use to actually behind the scenes edit the metadata that's sent to the website you're visiting with Playwright, that's changing the user agent that's shown to the website, that's doing a bunch of stuff to give the website you're visiting the impression that you're a real user. That's what this package tries to do. And again, I'll leave it up to you to decide whether using such a package is legal in your country or not. It's just something you could do. However, and that's where we get to crawl4ai. There are other packages which already kind of solve this problem for you. And crawl4ai is one package I've actually been using quite a bit over the last week to experiment with crawling and what you can do with it. And I'm saying crawling, I mostly mean scraping, but crawl4ai can actually also crawl, as you will see. So let's give it a try. Let's go back to this project and I'll add crawl4ai to it. And I'll get rid of all that code because I no longer want to spin up my own browser. Instead, now I want to use this package, crawl4ai. And I'll start by using its suggested code here from its documentation. And actually, why don't we use this Twitter post again? Actually, just to make sure no sheriff is watching this stream, I'll use my own website. Let's send this here. And yes, this would have worked without that too. But you can try it with other sites if you want to. It will also work with other sites like Google or X, at least in my experience. Or so I've heard. Of course, I have never tried it myself. But yeah, here I'm scraping my own website. And what's great about this package is not just that it is quite capable when it comes to working around bot detection, which might or might not matter to you. But what's great about this package is that it does so much more than that. For example, it will automatically parse the website content with a smart heuristic to find relevant content. So it will automatically discard HTML elements, script elements, styling. It's great at understanding which content matters or not, and you can configure which content should be considered relevant or not, and I'll show you how to do that. It's an amazing package. It will give you the scraped content as markdown, for example, if you want to. It also gives you, I think, let's take a look at their docs. I'm not getting auto-completion here. Let's take a look at their docs. It gives you the result in a lot of different ways. Wow, it's really pouring outside here. So where is the result? Crawl result is an object which gives you the HTML content if you're interested in that. It gives you the cleaned HTML content, which I believe is the content without the script tags and so on. You can get a screenshot. You have to request it though, but you can get it. It gives you markdown, which is what we will use. Yeah, and you can read that on your own, of course, obviously. So here we'll just print, let's say, markdown. Or actually, let's not print it. Let's save it. Result MD, result markdown. That's looking good. Let's run this. Wait for that. Should be a bit faster than that. Yeah, now it's starting. Now it's done. Here I got the result MD file, and look at that. This is, remember, this is this page here. I scraped this page. And you can see, yeah, the navigation stuff is in here. There are ways of getting rid of that. But most importantly, the article is here. No HTML, nothing like that. It's just the article. Also the footer, but also, most importantly, the article. And all that was achieved by this package without using a large language model. So you don't have to pay for tokens to get this form or to get the content of a website in this form. And again, it should also work with other sites like X or Google and many other sites as well. Now, it's definitely possible that there are sites that still block it, but it is really capable and powerful when it comes to scraping content. Now, what you can do when you use that is you can configure it in a broad variety of ways. And I'll just take a look at my second screen where I prepared that, because I keep on forgetting these configuration options, and there are some pretty important ones, some pretty interesting ones, I should say. Yeah, here we go. We need to, yeah. So what you can do is you can pass a config object to your crawler that you're creating. Let me see, is it the crawler or the crawl method? It's the crawl method, I think. So here to this A run, which stands for async run, you can pass a config object. The config object which you pass here is a crawler run config object, which you instantiate by using crawler run config. So we can import that just like the async web crawler from crawl4ai. And in there you can configure lots of stuff, right? You see that auto completion. There's lots of stuff you can configure. Obviously, the official documentation is a great place to learn more. There, if you take a look at the config docs, you can see that there's a bunch of stuff you can configure, including headless, if you want to see the browser when it opens up or not. You can also add proxies, add cookies, special headers, control the user agent. I mean, yeah, you see that there's a lot of stuff you can configure. For example, what I want to do here is I want to exclude all images and set this to true. Exclude social media links and set this to true. No, not that. Exclude social media links. So that the crawled content does not contain the images in the markdown and does not contain links to social media sites, as you might guess. You can also add check robots. Sometimes that autocompletion is really annoying. Check robots text. And that is something that's up to you. If you set this to true, crawl4ai will take a look at the robots.txt file of the site you're trying to scrape. And if that site has a robots.txt file that does not allow scraping, it will not do that. So now I can add this config to my crawler here, to this crawler run, and run this again. And it completes. And now I got almost the same result as before. But if you watch closely, or if you take a look at the original article, you'll see that there are some images in this article, right? But you won't find any images here in this markdown because of this configuration. If I try to crawl this X site here, now that I have check robots text set to true, if I do that, we should get an error, and we do, because X actually does not allow that, just as I mentioned. Yeah, the error doesn't really tell us why, but the reason is that X basically gave us an error. So I'll go back to my site. Is there a similar tool like crawl4ai that is TypeScript or something similar? To be honest, I don't know. When I did my entire research on web scraping and when I played around with that, I almost exclusively found Python packages, which is why I'm using Python here too. There may be some package for TypeScript or JavaScript, but I don't know it. Yeah, so that's one thing we can configure. We can also request a screenshot on error or in general. And if I do that, hopefully unsurprisingly, we will get a screenshot. That's the wrong one. Oh, yeah, I have to save the screenshot myself. It's not doing that for me. Actually, let me delete all these files. So in order to do that, I wanna, with open result dot, is it JPEG or PNG? I guess we'll see whether that works. A byte slide object is required, not string. Oh, I think the screenshot is base64 encoded, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, screenshot. Yeah, it's base64, so we need to convert that to bytes. Convert from base64. I don't think there's a, is there a decode method? No. So obviously, base64, we need that package, which is built into Python, and that should do the trick, I guess. Yeah. So now we have that screenshot. And one thing crawl4ai is doing right now is, for some reason, it's always taking the screenshot twice. So there is that. You can, of course, use tools like ImageMagick to split it manually. Yeah, I think they also will fix it, because I already saw in their GitHub repository, I think there is an issue report for that, like double screenshot. I think I saw one that the screenshot is always basically two screenshots. Anyways, you can split it yourself with ImageMagick if you want to, which allows you to programmatically edit images. Not just programmatically, also in the command line, of course. But that's not the focus here. So that's some stuff you can do with crawl4ai, But you can do even more than that. You can also control which content is considered relevant. And for that, you can set the, what is it? The markdown generator, I think. Markdown generator. you can add your own Markdown or MD generator, and you would use the default Markdown generator provided by crawl4ai, and you can configure that too. So you can control how that Markdown is generated. And here you can set a content filter, so to control which content of the website makes it into the Markdown. And for that, you can use the pruning content filter, which is also provided by crawl4ai. And here you can control the thresholds that are used by crawl4ai to determine whether some element contains relevant content or not. So we can set a min word threshold, for example, of, let's say, 5. To say that if an element has less than 5 words, it's not considered relevant. There also is a general threshold. I'm not sure how that relates to the min word threshold, but I think this should be enough already. If I now use the MD generator here and I crawl again, now it will fail because I tried to save a screenshot, which I no longer have. So let's get rid of that. But I think it's still safe. Did it save this? Let's try again. Yeah, but somehow that's still in there, the navigation. Maybe it is threshold, which I should set. Threshold, set this to 5. Let's see if that does the trick. It's been some time since I last used it, but there was some way of making this work. It's still there. Don't know what it was. Let's see, strategies is something else. Content processing. Yeah, skips text blocks. Word count threshold. But I was in the Markdown generator here. So I think I can also set a word count threshold here outside of the Markdown generator. Word count threshold is the correct name. But somehow it keeps on including that navigation. I'm not sure how that works internally, I have to admit. I definitely did get it to work in some other projects. Anyways, there's lots of stuff you can configure also regarding the extraction strategy. Let's see, where is the extraction strategy documentation? Core, crawler result, deep crawling, browser, markdown, content selection. I think that is what we want. No, that is that you can target specific elements. So the thing with crawl4ai, it's good that I'm here. The thing with crawl4ai is that you cannot just rely on their heuristics for extracting content, which you can configure, even though I'm somehow messing it up here. But you can also, for example, still tell crawl4ai that you want to select a certain element with a certain CSS selector. You can even create entire schemas that describe your relevant content and feed that to crawl4ai. There's lots of stuff you can configure, and definitely take a look at the official documentation if you want to dive deeper here. When feeding HTML to AI, make sure it's not private info. I have a feeling many try to summarize bank accounts. Yeah, it's a good point. Not totally related to the web scraping here, but in general, a valid point. I think we're all feeding way too much information to AI, and some people are definitely passing everything to ChatGPT and so on. And that is, of course, dangerous because it's possible that that gets into the training data. And even if it does not, I'm not sure if you want to share your bank accounts with OpenAI or Google or someone else. So yeah, Good point, good point. So, long story short, there are many things you can configure here to fine-tune the web scraping to get the content you want. And the great thing, of course, is that if you get content in Markdown, it's even easier to feed that to a large language model to summarize it. So here in this project, we could add the OpenAI package, for example, and add a .env file and add that to git ignore to make sure I never accidentally commit that. And then in there, we can set up the OpenAI API key. And obviously, I will now do that off screen. So let me just quickly grab my OpenAI key. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, so now I got my OpenAI key set up here in the env file. And now with OpenAI installed, with that Python SDK, we can of course create a client, OpenAI. It will automatically use the OpenAI API key from the environment variables if your environment variable is named like this. So you don't have to pass that into that client. We will have to make sure that we load the .env file though, and for that we can use python.env. And then from .env import load.env and call this. So now I can, yeah, thank you. So now I can use OpenAI and its models programmatically in my code. What theme am I using? It's a good question. Catpuccin Mocha. It's an extra extension, I guess, you have to install. So what we can do now is we get our Markdown, and instead of storing that in a file, instead of doing that, we can use that to talk to the responses API and create a new request to OpenAI. And for example, use GPT-4o Mini, which is cheaper, way cheaper than GPT-4o. If you take a look at OpenAI model pricing, if you take a look at the prices, where is their table? They do have some table somewhere, but we can also see it here. GPT-4o Mini is that correct? It's the real-time API. They have a better page than this. Here, this page, that's what I was looking for. So they have GPT-4o Mini costs us 15 cents per 1 million input tokens, and 4o costs $2.50 for 1 million input tokens. And when it comes to tasks like summarizing text, these small models are awesome at that. You don't need the super powerful, capable ones. You could even use local models with Ollama, which I could do here. I have it running on my system, but I'm not sure if I want to do that when I also stream at the same time. And maybe later. Okay, so I'll use GPT-4o Mini. And then my input here is a little prompt where I'll say, you are an expert website summarizer who excels at capturing and extracting or capturing and summarizing the core content of a website. Below you find the website content as Markdown. So, and then here I'll have my website content. Please summarize this website content and give me some bullet points with the key takeaways. Yeah, that makes sense. So now I'll send this prompt as an input, get back my response, and then I can print the response output text. Yeah, for scraping 3.5 is enough. It's probably true. But 15 cents per 1 million tokens is also okay. And Nihil, thank you so much for the nice feedback. I'll definitely try to keep up the nice work. Thank you so very much. So now if I run this, it'll still scrape my site here, extract the content, but it'll then feed it to OpenAI, to the GPT-4o mini model. And now I get this summary. So now this is not my website content here. Instead, that's the summary, the AI-generated summary of my website content. And that's, of course, kind of the potential using packages like crawl4ai has. It gives you a lot of potential power because you can build entire workflows where you automatically extract content from websites, where you then get the core content of the website thanks to this tool here, so that you don't have to manually go through all the HTML content and you don't have to send all those tokens to a large language model. Instead, you can get the core content, this markdown content, and then you can send that already extracted content to an AI model to summarize it or whatever you want. And of course, we could now take it a step further. We could say, okay, now we got that summary. I also want to tweet about this. I want to share a post on X about this article. So we could now either use the summary or the raw article. I think the raw article is actually good enough. So we don't need the summary, but I still will outsource this code here into an extra function so that we still have it. Summarize website, return response output text. So that was the code we just called, but now I'll add some new code because now I actually want to send another request to OpenAI, and I'll use, let's say, GPT-4o because I need more creative work, and GPT-4o mini, these small models are not that great at creative work, in my opinion. So I'll use a slightly more capable model. You could, of course, go even higher than that and try using O3 or anything like that. And now I want a prompt. By the way, I just read that we should not use the word please in our prompts because that's costing OpenAI millions of dollars and we don't need it, or the models don't need it. I'm not sure if that amount is correct, but it's a funny story and it definitely won't stop me from using please. I'm friendly, so I will continue using please in my prompts, just as I will try to have proper grammar and not have spelling mistakes in there and so on. So this new prompt is... No, not this. I love Cursor. I love their smart auto-completion. I love hitting tab, tab, tab. But it's so annoying that sometimes you just want to indent, and at that moment some suggestion is coming up, and you then automatically accept that suggestion, and then you have to undo it. And that takes you so much longer than if you would have just been able to hit tab to indent. But yeah, anyways. You are an expert post author and social media marketer. You excel at writing engaging, educational, and informative X posts. And by the way, we could put instructions like this into a system prompt, a system message for the model, but putting it all into one prompt for a workflow that like this is also perfectly fine in my experience. Okay, so you excel at blah, blah, blah. Below you find the content of a website. It's a blog or it's an educational blog post. So then I have my website content. Please, here it is, please write an X post about the content of the website. Here are some example posts I shared in the past. And now I'll add some examples. So I'll do some few shot prompting here, so to say, to make sure or to increase the chances of getting the AI to generate posts that have a similar language and tone and style as I do. So let's say I have two examples here and I don't have them yet. So I will quickly grab some examples, and I probably shouldn't be using my examples from X because I'm horrible. I get no I get no traction on X at all. I definitely haven't figured out how X works, or I'm too lazy to write viral posts. So if you can help me with that, that is more than welcome. But I'll just grab 2 random posts by me. Again, if you want to go viral, you definitely want to pick someone else's posts. But feel free to follow me. That might help me too. So I'll just grab these 2 posts. And maybe it would be better if we had more, but I don't want to stretch this out infinitely, so I'll just go with 2. And then I'll add an instruction. Don't use the content from these examples, but do use the language style, structure, and tone. Write a new X post based on the content of the website that uses the language, etc. from the above examples. Return just the generated X post, nothing else, no extra explanations, etc. Okay, so that's my prompt here. Quite a long prompt, but should hopefully do the trick. I'll set that as an input, and then we'll see what we get as an output. And keep in mind, we're still doing all that in an automated workflow where I'm scraping a website. My website, but it could be any website. Of course, only websites that allow it, though. So here we go. Let's run this and let's see what we get. You never know. Yeah, we want to be polite. We don't know when AI will take over, and then I don't want to be one of those people that insulted it. Yeah, so that's the post, and to be honest, it's not super close to my posts. I'm not using hashtags. I think today Elon Musk posted that from tomorrow on, hashtags won't be supported in commercial posts anymore or something like that. So I should have probably shared more examples with the AI or used a more powerful model. But anyways, you probably get the point, and in general, few-shot prompting does work quite well. You just might want to include more examples and or restructure the prompt, of course, because when it comes to using AI, prompt engineering is always about testing different things and trying out different prompts for different problems, and you can get quite good results then in reality. It's just not the focus of this stream, so I'll leave it as is. But you get the idea. And of course, we could be generating all kinds of stuff now. We could be generating an X post, a LinkedIn post. We can also generate a thumbnail if we want to, and that would be fun too, wouldn't it? So to not lose that code, I'll outsource that into a function too, generate X post. Let me grab this code, put it here, and return response output text. And now I want to generate an image. For that, I will have to quickly change my API key because the one I'm using right now actually is not unlocked for image generation. So let me see which project do I have with a working API key. This one maybe. I just quickly have to check. Let's see this. And here. Yeah, might work. We'll see. So I replaced the API key behind the scenes. And now we can try generating an image. And for that, we again use client images. And I think it's generate. And we choose a model, and I don't want to use DALL-E. I want to use GPT Image 1, which is the latest image generation model by OpenAI. We need a prompt. We can request a certain number of images. We also can request different formats, and I want landscape. Not sure if that format is supported by GPT Image 1. I'll use this one because here I know that it is supported. And of course, I don't want a beautiful image of a cat. Instead, I want a thumbnail for my website content. So you are an expert thumbnail creator. I'm not sure if role prompts are super important for this image API, to be honest. Below you've actually here it probably makes sense to just use the summary to keep it a bit shorter. So I'll get the summary from this summarize website function, which also uses AI. Below you find the summary of a website. Please create a thumbnail for the X post that is based on the summary. Yeah, let's try this. I get back a response. And that response, how do I get the image? Is it the image? I might have to look at the official docs. Whoops, or do I have an example here off screen? Let's see. Okay, so from the response, yeah, thank you very much. There is a data field that the first element should be the first image. And then we can get, then I don't want your suggestions. Then we can get that as base 64. And then we can get this in bytes by using base 64 B64 decode and decode that base 64 string into bytes to then save it. And I will request this. Is it not format? There is a. Is it output format? Yeah, that should be JPEG, let's say. So here we can also save it as a JPEG file. And let's see what we get. Let's run this. Luxury stream, not every day we see you. Yeah, normally I try to stream every week, but the last weeks there was so much stuff going on. And the next weeks I'm actually also gone. So yeah, it's rarer than I would like these streams to be. I do enjoy them a lot. So I hope I can stream more regularly, maybe in a month or so. But there's just so much stuff going on. And it's not, I'm not doing this as my main thing or anything like that. I'm basically earning no money off these streams, and I'm doing this for fun, so I have to squeeze it in whenever I find the time, essentially. I even see someone asking the AI to generate the prompt to crawl a site, then feed it back to AI. Yeah, you can do crazy stuff with AI. You can definitely generate all kinds of stuff, generate search terms, then automatically search, then extract the website content, then have AI summarize the website content. That's essentially what deep research is, right? So when you're using deep research in ChatGPT, they are behind the scenes generating search terms for you, executing those searches more or less. I mean, they have their own search indexes, I guess, but they're doing all that for you. So yeah, you soon will live in a world where AI consumes 100% AI generated content. What an amazing future. So here's the thumbnail. And why is that a cat? Oh, I did not use my prompt. Okay. I mean that would be a great thumbnail for my article too, right? Okay, but let's go again. I'm sure someone pointed this out in chat. So what else do we have? Thanks to your React and JavaScript course, I got a web developer job. I'm happy you're alive today. Just wanted to say thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Pranay. That's just amazing. Congratulations to getting the job. And I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. I'm really honored that my content, my courses helped you get that. So yeah, honestly means a lot to me. Congratulations on getting that job. Good job. And all the best, of course, for that job. That's really great. Now learn AI CLI to let it do 90% of the work. Yeah, I have a feeling there's going to be a massive freelancer creating a site in a day. Not sure about code quality. According to them, as long as it works, customers don't care about code quality. Yeah, and that is 100% correct. Customers don't care about the code quality. However, I think if we go down that route of vibe coding everything and not caring about the code for any project, that's really dangerous. Because of course, you can look at code quality from a philosophical point of view, and you might want to write high quality code because you enjoy it. And that's the part nobody's interested in, unfortunately. Or is it? Because ultimately, all these patterns for better quality code, all these practices have not emerged, or not just emerged, because programmers have nothing better to do. Instead, they have emerged because they lead to safer, more scalable software that's easier to maintain, and all that fun stuff that's going away if we don't care about code quality. So I see a massive problem if we go down that route of just letting AI generate everything and not caring about code quality. Working together with AI, but controlling it, steering it, reviewing it, which is not the fun part. That is probably a good route forward, but ultimately we'll all see where we end up in a couple of years, I guess. So that's the thumbnail. It's okay. I'm not sure what this dude is doing here. It's not me. But in general, it's really not a bad thumbnail. We got to be honest, right? So if we maybe tweak the prompt that it should not include persons on that thumbnail, you could definitely build a workflow that automates this post creation. And I know the stream says that it's about website crawling and extraction, and now we're just doing AI stuff for the last minutes. But I think that is really an interesting use case of extracting website content. Maybe not sharing it as X posts, but summarizing it, automatically extracting info. Or if that is your own website, you could, of course, also set up a pipeline where you probably don't crawl it because you already have access to the code, but where you, of course, then also produce a LinkedIn post, an X post, and so on. You can do all these things. However, to get back to the crawling aspect, that's the thing we haven't looked at all. Thus far, we've done web scraping, which means we visit a website, we extract the website content, and that is it. And very often, that is what you want to do. You can build powerful automations where you just feed in a bunch of URLs and then you visit all these URLs and here you go. But with crawl4ai, you can actually also perform real crawling. There is a reason why it's called crawl4ai and not scrape4ai. Now I have to take a look at my notes here because it's been some time since I've written that code. Because this crawler can be configured to actually perform real crawling and not just web scraping. And let's see, how does this work again? We need to, so in this config here, I think we can define a deep crawl strategy to control how it performs the crawling. Essentially, Essentially, we have the choice between breadth first and depth search. So if when it crawls the article site, it should first visit all links it finds on this site, and then thereafter, once it did visit all links, dive deeper into each site and visit the links it finds on that site, or if it should go depth first and visit the first link, visit all pages behind that link, and once it's done there, come back to this top page and go to the next page. That's something you can control here. And you can control this by importing from crawl4ai the DFS deep crawl strategy or the BFS deep crawl strategy for depth first or breadth first crawling. And of course, the official docs also got us covered. Let's see. Do they have some crawling here too? I think that's all just scraping here. Because we want deep crawling, because deep crawling means that we are visiting nested pages. Oh, because that's also interesting. Before we go to the crawling part, one thing crawl4ai also does for you, and for that I'll first outsource this here into a new function, generate thumbnail. Here we go. One thing crawl4ai does for you is it gives you what did I want to say? It gives you yeah, right. It gives you what is it named? It gives you a list of all links it found, and that can also be pretty useful. So if we take a look at the crawl result, it is, yeah, it's called links. So you can get a convenient list of all the links it found on a site, and yeah. I gotta comment this out. Where is it? Here. I gotta comment this out for now. We haven't configured this yet. So now it's crawling my site again, and here it's giving me a dictionary full of all the links it found, and it even groups them by internal and external, which of course also helps with crawling, where you maybe only want to crawl internal links. You don't want the crawler to leave the site. Maybe you do, but often you don't. So the idea behind crawling then really just is that it will automatically visit all these links and, yeah, view the content behind these pages. So for that, we can set up such a deep crawl strategy, as we also see it here in this example. And for that, we can, as we see here, set up a breadth first deep crawl strategy. So that is what I'll do. And you can then control the max depth, so how deep it should go. And I'll go for only 2 levels. Of course, the more you add here, the longer it will take, because it's going to go super deep into your site. It obviously depends on your use case, what you want here. You can also set a maximum amount of pages. So max depth controls how deep it goes. But if you have, like, let's say you have 50 links. So let's say on this articles page here, I don't have 50 articles, but let's say that would be 50 articles. If we have just max depth set to 2, we would go 2 levels deep for every article we find. With max pages, we could limit this to 20, so that after 10 articles, is that correct? So after visiting 20 pages in total, we would stop crawling, even if there are more pages left. And you might want to do that to save resources, to make sure you're not ending up in a super long crawl process. Of course, on some sites, you could even get into like an infinite crawling problem. So yeah, you want to be careful here. Here, I'll not set a max amount of pages though. You can also, and that's pretty cool, you can also define filters. And that's something I've done in the past. It's a pretty cool feature. You can define a filter chain by using, it's just a list, I think. Yeah, it's just a list. And here you can register a bunch of filters to control which pages will be crawled. So for example, to exclude certain pages. For example, you can add a content type filter. It's a pre-built filter. You can add that to your filter chain. And make sure that you only include HTML files. So if it encounters some other links to PDF documents or so on, it's not visiting those. You can also add a domain filter. Or is that a filter I wrote myself? Let's see, is there a domain filter? Yeah, it's in there. You can also write your own filters. But you can also add the built-in domain filter here to control which links for which domain it should visit. For example, here I can use my domain to ensure we're not visiting external sites or anything like that. I'm actually not sure what the default behavior was, if it does visit external sites by default. But even if that would be the case, if you had a page with subdomains like app.maximilian.schwarzmüller.com, you could make sure that only those are visited and not other maximilianschwarzmüller.com pages. So it's really powerful. You can configure a lot of stuff there. And then I can register my filter chain here. and yeah, configure my deep crawl strategy with that. Now, what else do they have here? Yeah, Verbose does some logging. And the scraping strategy, by the way, is also interesting. This controls how they're extracting content from the website. This LXML web scraping strategy is, I think, the default. But you could, for example, also use a large language model strategy, which they also support. So they have different strategies for extracting content. And if you use the large language model strategy, then they would actually call a large language model for you. Of course, you would have to provide an API key. You would be paying for it, but they would do it for you. You wouldn't have to write your own code to extract content. So that is also pretty amazing that this is built in, but they also have these AI-free strategies, which they are using by default. But that's just a side note. Okay, so that is the first step. So now what's going to happen is, now with the deep crawl strategy set up here, we should actually be going through a bunch of pages. We should actually be performing some real crawling. So now we can go through our results, because now we're getting back results. So I'll actually just copy their code here. Like this, go through the results, and I will just print each result, each URL for now, let's say. Let's see if that works. So if I now again run this, unexpected word domains. Is that not domains? Oh, it's allowed domains, okay. And as you maybe saw briefly, you can also set blocked domains if you want to do the opposite. Okay, so let's try this again. Content types. I mean, that's this autocompletion. What is it? It is allowed types. Okay, it's allowed types. One more try. That's looking better. No, it's not. List object has no attribute apply. Where is this coming from? What is the issue here? So we are running crawl4ai run with our config where we have the deep crawl strategy set up. We got our results, we're looping through it. What is the problem with that code? Is it related to the filter? I mean, I can simply disable the filter for now to see if it's related to that. Okay, what's the filter? So now you can see it's keeping on crawling. It's visiting various sites here, which are linked on that site it was visiting. And it's visiting sites that are linked on the sites it's visiting. So it's a crawling process, right? So it's not just crawling the links it finds on, I think it was on this Gemma 3 article, right? So it was this URL where it started. But then it visited all the links it finds here. Like, for example, this link to the articles. And it then also visited all these articles, all these links. Because I have a max depth of 2. And going from this article to articles is 1. And then visiting those articles is 2. If I had more depth, it would now go back and visit more sites. I think it automatically detects if it already was on a site though. So it should not go back to articles, but I'm not 100% sure. We can try it. If I set this to 3, because it does have caching built in, it automatically caches, and therefore I'm pretty sure that it does not revisit sites it's already been on. But I might be wrong. No, it does not do that. So that's good. Because that, of course, would be an infinite loop if it would keep on going back to sites it already was on. What zodiac sign do you have? So fish, I'm not sure. I think it's called fish in English too. It's fish in German. It's Fische in German, so I guess it's fish in English. I tried Copilot PR review for the first time yesterday. I have to say that it was pretty cool. Yeah, AI definitely has its cool moments. Absolutely, it can be very useful. I'm using it every day for lots of stuff. I wouldn't recommend only using it though, for the reasons I mentioned before. A big fan, sir. I want to ask about Flutter versus native React Native mobile app or real native mobile app development. Which one is more better? Is Flutter, but native has a small size. Yeah, so when it comes to building mobile apps, just to briefly answer this, there is no single best solution, because if that would be the case, we would only have that solution most likely. So Flutter is amazing. Yes, I think the app sizes tend to be a bit bigger. It's not necessarily a problem. If app size is the most important thing for you, you probably have to go native. So not React Native, but real native. Because in general, when you use real native, so if you use Swift and Kotlin, that will always give you the best possible performance. If you write good code, it will give you the smallest apps naturally, because there is no overhead in there. So yeah, that's that. Can you please show multi-URL scraping? Yeah, that's what we just did, I guess. Or do you mean external sites? I've never done this. I'm not sure if that is supported by crawl4ai. I guess it is, but I've never done this. It's probably something you could configure here then. But yeah, we just crawled multiple URLs. And just to be clear, crawling those URLs means these pages were visited and the content was extracted. So just as we did it for one page, now because we added the deep crawl strategy setting here, now we did that for all those pages. And of course, you can, in theory, do this or try this for every website out there. So that's that. And of course, we could then be saving that content. We could be generating stuff with it with a large language model. We can do all of that. Yeah. So that's crawl4ai. And it's amazing how powerful this package is and what it does for you. Because with just a couple of lines of code, we got a complete crawler here. By the way, I'm not sponsored. I'm not involved with this project. I don't even know the people working on this. I'm genuinely just excited about it because we just have some code and we get all this. We have an easy time crawling websites, and all that happens on our machine or on a server. If you deploy it on a server, you don't have to pay for it. Wow. It's a lot of rain. All that happens without you paying for anything. The one caveat, of course, is if it's legal or not is up for you to decide in your country and with your lawyers, I guess. But yeah, just out of curiosity, have you ever met Jonas Schmettmann, since both of you are among the top instructors? I was wondering. Yes, I have. Is there any update for React Native course like Expo Router and using new Expo features? Not planned right now, sorry. I mean a multi-URL async batch scraping all URLs at once. It has support for this. So, yes, I did something like this. Let me see. I mean, we can also take a look at the docs together here. In general, yeah, absolutely. You can, of course, batch scrape. The one thing you have to watch out for when doing batch scraping is, of course, you want to control how much instances you're spinning up simultaneously, because if you're scraping and crawling a lot of sites at the same time, this has two potential problems. One problem is your hardware, that you're putting a lot of work on your computer, and of course, you need the right hardware for that. The other problem is that you are potentially sending a lot of requests from the same IP to the same server if you're scraping one site. And that's something some sites, some servers, some networks detect, and they might block your IP. So, and then obviously you can't scrape them anymore, or you need a proxy to work around that. And yeah, that is a totally different thing, a totally different world you're in then. But yeah, that is just something to be aware of. So, but yeah, let's see what else we can do with the crawling. They do also have, and I have used this, streaming and non-streaming mode, which means right now what's happening is it's like, you can see that here, right? This here is the log whilst it's crawling. But then the white part here, that's actually the output from me going through all the results. And as you can see, that all happens in one chunk after all the pages have been crawled. That's the default behavior. That's the non-streaming mode, the default, exactly. But you can also switch to a streaming mode if you want to act on those crawl results before it's done. And that can make sense because right now we always wait until it's entirely done. And of course, if it crashes at the very last site, or if we get blocked at the last site, right, as I just explained, and therefore it does not finish successfully, if that happens, none of those previously crawled results will be available, because it's by default crawling everything first and then you can act on that. But you can switch to stream mode if you want to, and that might be interesting too. So for that, in this config here, in the deep crawl strategy, no, it's not here, right? It's in the other, it's in the main config. Yeah, in the main config, you can set stream to true to opt into streaming mode. And then you can use an async iterator to go through these results as they're coming in. So instead of waiting for these results as one block, you can have such an async for loop, which is supported by Python, and print every result as it arrives. And again, we could also access the markdown here, right? I'm just using the URL so that I'm not spamming my terminal. But if I do that, then we should see, now we get a bunch of white between the green, right? So now it's constantly logging whenever it's done. Yeah. So obviously still you can see some pages, there are some races going on, but in general it is outputting, or it's making those results available once they arrive instead of at the end. So that's one interesting thing you can do. Now what I've done in the past, if I wanted to crawl multiple sites simultaneously, is I have spun up multiple processes and then have one crawler for each process. So I did not use a crawl4ai exclusive or a specific feature. Instead, I used the standard feature, which you can use in Python, which you can use in all programming languages, essentially, to spin up multiple processes and run different tasks on those processes. But I'm open to seeing what what they have built in, maybe. Excuse me. So what else can we do? Using scores, advanced filtering techniques, limiting and controlling crawl size. We already saw that. So I don't see anything about built-in simultaneous crawling, but I might be wrong, obviously. Maybe under advanced. You mean that, multi-URL crawling. Oh yeah, with the dispatchers. There should be somewhere in my code here. I'm just searching off screen. I think maybe I ran into some problems with those dispatchers. Because you're right, it does have that built-in support. It just didn't work for me, I think. But we can give it a try. So what do we need? We need to set up such a dispatcher, which essentially controls how these different crawling processes are started. So as we can see here, we can basically control, it's watching our system memory, essentially, making sure that it's never, I guess, taking up more than 70%. And as long as it's below that, it probably dispatches new crawl processes. So it's a bit smarter than just spinning up 5 threads and running one crawler on each thread, because this approach here will monitor your system resources, which of course makes more sense. I just ran into some problems, but we'll see. Max session. So I guess we have a maximum of 10 crawlers working at the same time. Crawler monitor. What is the monitor? Does this output? Does this log stuff? I guess we'll see what it does. Display mode detailed. And I will actually go back to non-streaming mode for now to see how that works. And just grab that code. And if it's successful, I want to print the URL. And now, of course, we need a bunch of URLs. And this is config. We need a bunch of URLs here to crawl. And I will again just use my own site here, because I definitely do not want to get into any trouble because of my stream here. So I'll use the main landing page and one article page. And obviously crawling one single simple site like my site with multiple processes at once doesn't make a lot of sense, because I can easily crawl it with one process in like, I don't know, 20 seconds or so. But yeah. For practice purposes, let's see. Display mode is not supported. Okay, I'm not sure. Do we need a monitor? I mean, I just copied and pasted that from the original site, but for some reason it wasn't working. But yeah, that seems to work fine now. I'm not sure in which problem I ran back then. Maybe it was related to how I processed the results. I don't know. But yeah, that worked just fine, though I actually just see the logs from the crawling. Why do I not print the results? Is it not a success? Let me try again. So now I put that outside of the if statements. Because I wonder why I don't get my print statements. So now I got 2, which are the URLs I passed in as an input. Interesting. Process all results. Process result. Well, I'm not sure what their process result function is doing. Do we have an example for that? A deep crawl. Do we have batch crawl? No, we don't. How can we use the /crawl endpoint? I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean fire crawl? I'm not using that today. This is an extra package which you run locally, where you write the code that controls what's going to happen. That's the idea here. So I'm just wondering, I should be getting back a bunch of results, I guess. So let's maybe just take a look at what's inside of results. Good old console log debugging, or print debugging, as we would probably say in Python. So let's see what we're getting here. Okay, so I got a crawl result, URL, success false. Interesting, because that looks like a bunch of success to me. Error message, list object has no attribute success. Error message. Yeah, list object has no attribute success. So what I'm getting back is not really the results, which is weird because I don't get an error either. And I'm using that official example, right? I mean, they are setting a different cache mode, but I'm not sure if that really makes a difference here regarding this. I mean, I can try it just to make sure that I really have exactly the same code, but that, as I said, I do recall that I ran into some problems with this. crawl4ai also gives an API. Is this when you use it through the... I know they have a command line interface, which you can use. But I have to admit, I did not know that they exposed an API because I was focused on writing my own program with that library. Am I blind? It's a Docker deployment, right? It's this. Oh. Gotcha. So you can spin up your own little locally running crawling API, right? That's pretty fascinating. That's pretty great. So I guess if you don't want to write the code, if you don't want to integrate it into an existing application, that's definitely helpful. I never took a look at that because for me it was clear. I want to write my own workflow. I want my own crawling logic. I want to handle the results myself. But yeah, makes sense. It's maybe an even easier way. Probably less fine-tuning opportunities, but on the other hand, also less work. Good point, good point. Yep, so I guess that is something we could also try. Yeah, but I'm not sure why it's failing here to successfully batch crawl. I mean, I have essentially the same code. Maybe because I need, no. Browser config, headless? No, that should not be the reason. Huh. Oh, the dispatcher. The dispatcher is missing. Is it? No, the dispatcher is here. Yeah. I don't know what the problem is. As I said, I recall that I had some problems with that. I do find this Docker part interesting, though. How does that work? I want to see that. So let's use the latest stable version. And then we need an llm.env file with our keys. Yeah, but I don't want to use large language models in there, so I don't need that. Okay, so I then just run this, and then it's this port where it's exposed. Okay. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, besides this batch processing thing, which for some reason doesn't work for me here, as I said, I solved this by spinning up my own processes and running multiple crawlers simultaneously. But besides that, I really like that package because it makes extracting website content so simple. It gives you so many configuration options. Really great. And unlocks many opportunities and use cases. Obviously, the one problem always is that you might not be allowed to use that on the site you want to use it on. But that is something everybody has to figure out on their own, I guess. I guess it's also for that reason why Firecrawl, for example, also doesn't crawl Twitter URLs. I'm not sure if I'm logged in. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I am. So here I also get forbidden. So even though it technically would be possible, right? As you saw before, we could visit the site and take a screenshot. It's not impossible to scrape X. But Firecrawl also doesn't support it, for example, probably because X doesn't allow it, and you don't want to get in trouble with Elon Musk, I guess. Nice to see you on Twitch. I've learned React with your burger app. Wow, that is amazing. That is really amazing in the most positive way possible, because that was back in 2017, 18. So that really is amazing to see someone that's been around since then. So yeah, thank you so much for joining the stream. That's pretty cool. Really cool. So yeah, pulling that Docker image is done. And with that, boy, I'm getting hungry. With that, we can Docker run, crawl4ai. That's all looking good. And now I guess I can start sending requests, right? Whoops. Which endpoints do I have? I heard there is a crawl endpoint. In addition to the core crawl endpoint. Yeah, but I want to learn more about the core crawl endpoint. I just want to learn how to use it, which parameters I can set, and so on. So I'm sending a post request. Thank you very much. Okay, that's not working. Using the API, that's not working. Okay. Localhost. The server will be available. Yeah, I know that, but what are the endpoints I can use? Using the API. I was too quick. Using the API. Okay. We got a playground interface. Playground interface. Okay. I would like to visit this playground. Oh, cool. So that's so cool about streams like this, that I've been using this tool for weeks, but always in my own workflows. I didn't even know about this feature because I focused so much on the parts that mattered to me that I didn't even look at the rest of the documentation. So yeah, thank you so much for pointing it out. 2018. Wow, amazing. So cool. Did you use a robots.txt configuration? Yes, I do. Here we go. So I guess now we can try crawling this website, run, processing. Okay. Yeah, so that's essentially what we did in code before, right? But this gives us a nice way of easily seeing what was retrieved. So that is, of course, that markdown, which we also saw before. But as you see, it's also all these links, and then also stuff like the HTML content. Though that is not HTML. I'm just not sure if it's not being displayed here. I think you can retrieve it if you want to. Okay, so that's that. Crawl stream is... So here, batch, we can probably insert multiple URLs and it will work, right? So if I try that, pretty sure it will work here. No error. Huh. But a single URL will still work? Yeah. I'm not sure what the problem with batch is, if you have multiple. /md, I guess, gives you just the markdown. Yep. And LLM is not available here because I have not set this up. Pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool. And obviously we could now also talk to this with curl or Python in our code. So actually we have two ways of using this in our code, right? We can either write the code ourselves, as I did here, which is what I've been using exclusively, and which of course has the advantage that you have full control. You can tweak everything. You can write your own workflows, implement this in your own workflow the way you want. But obviously, we could also use it programmatically, by sending a HTTP request, where we can also configure it through these parameters, of course. And you can use it totally outside of your programs by just using the playground or sending requests like this. So that's pretty cool. Can you explain how News API works? Is that another feature of this? Or do you mean this site here? To be honest, I've never used News API, so I don't know how it works, sorry. But by the looks of it, it looks like basically something like SERP API, which allows you to crawl Google search engine, so the search results by Google, just for news. But I might be totally wrong, but that is what it looks like. Looks like an API that tries to make it easy for you to retrieve news. Okay, so that's that. That is actually the main thing I wanted to explore today. Showing you what I've been using, learning something new, which I hoped for before, but didn't expect. So that's cool that I know more about this tool than before. You hopefully also know more about it. And in general, giving you a feeling for what you can do with web crawling, with web scraping. Obviously, we got the legal problem. Big companies don't need to care, but you might. That's up to you, as mentioned. But yeah, pretty cool. And don't forget what I showed you initially, right? You can also try the most basic approach with the requests package, right? So what we did at the very beginning to try to retrieve the content of the website like this. For my site, that also worked. And you don't need a super fancy complex site, or a complex tool like crawl4ai necessarily. You can also try an approach like this. But of course, that approach, as I also showed you, has some limitations. You can also use or build your own crawler with something like Playwright, but then you might run into bot problems, and that is where something like crawl4ai can also help you, and it also helps with all the extractions on, which is pretty amazing. And therefore, actually, we still got a couple of minutes left. I only need to go in around 10 minutes. So if you got any questions or anything, doesn't have to be related to crawl4ai, I'm more than happy to answer, of course. I will say that there are, of course, an endless amount of services like firecrawl.dev, and actually they also have their own package you can use. So they have a paid service, but Firecrawl also is open source at the same time. So you could install that package and try using that. It's just something I never did, but I think you could consider using that as an alternative. Can you check if you can configure the output of this /crawl thing? So I don't think you can in the playground. You can tweak this crawler run config, and I guess this then gets translated to parameters for the request. Let's take a look at the official documentation, because I think that the natural thing would be that you configure this by controlling the request body and adding URL parameters or something like this. And that's what I want to find out. So no, that's pretty interesting. So you can configure this as it seems so if you're sending a request from inside your Python code to your locally running endpoint, you can simply set the request body to a dictionary that does not just include the URLs you want to crawl, but you can also include a crawler config key. and then in there have a crawler config payload, which has this shape, so which is a dictionary with a type key, which is set to crawler run config, and a params key, and that then, I guess, can hold the exact same values as you can set here, crawler run config. So what we could do, we can give this a try. We can use curl and send a request to, where is this running? Localhost 11235. So we can send this request with curl. I mean, maybe I can save some time here. If I send this here, yeah, now I can just copy and paste this. So we can, of course, do that here as well. And then, yeah, here we can see, regarding the configuration, we can see that it's a bit hard to read, but this here is the request body after this -d part, and it's a dictionary or a JSON object with a URLs key, which is that list of URLs that should be crawled. And then, as I just explained, that crawler config, and that is an object where the type is set to crawler run config, and it probably needs to be set to that. And yeah, as you mentioned, you can use any crawler config options or values configuration here for the params. So here, the scraping strategy is set to web scraping strategy. It's excluding certain social media domains by default, and streaming is set to true. And I guess we could also set, for example, check robots text and set this to true to, okay, why is this not? I thought so, at least. Check robots text. Why is this not supported? That is interesting. I'm not sure. What was the error? Got an unexpected keyword argument, check robots text. It's possible that this specific setting does not work because I'm using the latest version of this Docker container, and I think this check robots text feature is relatively new. So that could be one reason why this specific example was failing. But in theory, you can add your settings here in the request body, and you can add the same settings you can set here. And I think the problem here just is that this robots text compliance support, well, it has been in there since March 4th. I don't know. The Docker crawl4ai image, the latest version. Was pushed 2 months ago, so I think that should be included. Yeah, but I don't know. I just need metadata node, not HTML or other nodes. Well, I guess you can filter it out yourself in your code, right? So that's what I've been doing. You get all these results and you can just take the parts that are relevant to you. I'm not sure if you can configure. You can configure to some extent what it retrieves for you, right? So just like you can request an extra screenshot. But to my knowledge, you can't tell it. I might be wrong though, but I think you can't tell it that you're not interested in one specific field. There might be a way of getting only the markdown, but just getting the metadata, I'm not so sure about that. The docs are pretty extensive, so hard to find it quickly here, but they give you a lot of configuration options, so there might be a way of doing that. Anyways, I'll leave now. I hope this was interesting and helpful. It was a lot of fun for me. I learned something new, which is great. As I mentioned, I plan to stream more regularly, but not the next, I guess, 3 weeks, because I'm not really here. But thereafter, hopefully. If you want to view my past streams, you can visit youtube.com/Maximilian Extended. I upload all my streams here. I will upload today's streams here today. I will upload today's stream tomorrow on this site. You can also visit my regular YouTube channel, of course, if you want to, for my regular videos. And yeah, I wish you a great day. So thank you so much for being part of the stream. Thank you so much for being around. Have a great day, no matter if it's morning, afternoon, evening. And I hopefully see you again in future streams or videos. Bye.